Life Unrehearsed on CJAD 800. Brought to you by Marco Vendramini of IG Private Wealth Management. MarcoVendramini.com.
And good afternoon. Welcome to Life Unrehearsed. My name is Matt Delvecchio, specializing in life transitions, downsizing in the senior living industry.
And I'm Corey Sirota, clinical social worker and psychotherapist, specializing in grief and loss.
Coming right up on the first half of today's show, imagine going up against 1,800 participants from 89 different countries in a 48-hour challenge from MIT, one of the world's most prestigious universities. You make your pitch, and then you find out you win. Well, we're going to hear from the Montreal PhD student that was part of that winning team. Such a fascinating story. It just happened, Corey, so we're looking forward to that. I have to ask you first, with restaurants opening up, have you been? Or will you be going?
Actually, I have not. From the beginning, we've actually ordered out once a week. Felt comfortable. We've been fine 4 months later. But we're not quite ready to do the restaurant thing yet. What about you?
Yeah, we're the same way. We've done a couple takeouts and still not ready, still not comfortable. And I think the feedback has been pretty good. I think there's still some bugs to work out at all restaurants. It's uncharted territory for them, I think we're going to wait a little bit longer, but we want to support local wherever we can, even if it is takeout. I'm sure
That's
they
right.
appreciate the business. Yeah. What do we have coming up on the second half, Corey?
Lots of moves are happening in the next week or so, and this has many people thinking about the possibility of downsizing. There's no question it could be stressful, overwhelming, and emotional. Well, you're going to want to hear about how to do this from the transition specialist that is going to make your life so much easier. We're going to hear some very invaluable downsizing tips, and that's coming up after the 4:30 news.
Yeah, looking forward to that. All right, Trevor Rajchgot. There's a name you're going to remember. He's an impressive PhD student at the University of Montreal. He found out about a 48-hour, what they call a hackathon, sponsored by MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. It's only ranked, Corey, as the number one university in the world. Not number two, number one. Well, he put a team together, created a brilliant training solution for COVID-19, and up against, as I mentioned, 1,800 participants from 89 different countries, made the pitch about 3 weeks ago, and we're going to let him tell the rest of the story. Trevor, welcome to Life Unrehearsed.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being on the show. So first of all, explain to us, what is a hackathon, and what was this specific hackathon for?
Sure. So a hackathon in general is a design sprint. So it's working towards a very specific goal in a very short amount of time. So this particular hackathon was organized by MIT related to recovery and reopening for COVID-19. And so it was a really intense 48-hour virtual hackathon. They've held several of these, and there were participants from all over the world. So it was a lot of fun to participate in.
It's fun. I don't know if I'd use that adjective, but okay, I'll go with fun. Tell us about how you even selected your team members.
Sure. So this is entirely virtual due to current global circumstances. And so there was a Slack channel. Slack, for those who don't know, is an app for communication where people made introductions of their credentials, what they were interested in. And so I went out and sought a diverse team. Part of the judging criteria for the competition was how diverse your team is. And so I selected teammates from Philadelphia, St. Louis, and Singapore. So they were experts in nursing, data science, and also user design.
Diverse is the appropriate word.
Yeah.
Literally around the world team on many different time zones. And so you put it together, you started it, you've got your team members. Now, Trevor, this must have been intense. Can you tell us about those 48 hours?
Well, there wasn't a whole lot of sleep, but it was worth it in the end because we really found a particular issue where we could make a big impact. Elder care has been such a hotbed of COVID-19 activity. There was just an article today in the New York Times showing that 43% of deaths in the U.S. were within these elder care facilities, and Canada, it seems to be upwards of 80% of deaths. And so we looked at something that was more achievable, like what would have the least amount of barriers to solve. and how could we make a really good impact in a short amount of time.
Well, that's Trevor Rajchgot. He's telling us about a fascinating story about winning a worldwide challenge at MIT for a unique app providing training solutions for COVID-19. So I want to know, how did you find out you won?
Well, so there was a big pitch session where so there were different tracks. So we were in the elder care and long-term care track. So we heard everyone's pitch, and then we had to wait around while the judges tallied the scores, and then there was a big Zoom call where they presented the winners of each track. So there was a lot of suspense, especially because we were one of the last to be announced, but it turns out we won, and we were all very excited. So we had, my team and I had a little celebratory Zoom call afterwards where we took pictures and congratulated each other, but it was very exciting.
I could imagine a little toast, the international toast via Zoom.
Right.
So exciting, So explain to us what this product is or service, because it is related. It had to be a solution related to COVID-19. So tell us a little bit more about it.
Sure. So we created Care Owl. So it's a web and mobile platform for frontline caregivers at long-term care and elder care facilities to access training and support in a fun, easy, accessible way. So we noted that there were several articles and interviews where these primary caregivers, they have different names across the world. In the U.S., they're known as certified nursing assistants, have a big lack of training, and so they may not know where to turn for COVID-related best practices. And so we wanted to standardize care and also make sure that these caregivers who are giving so much of themselves are getting adequate access to support. And so we created a kind of a Duolingo, except for best practices and sanitary practices related to COVID. But we see this going even beyond that.
There's no question. It sounds so fascinating, but how could you even manage to balance different, I don't know, what is it called, hygiene laws or Health Canada laws versus in other countries? How are you able to balance that?
For sure. So we designed it to be super modular so that it can be changed for different jurisdictions, different hospitals. But in general, we're going to start with general best practices. For example, a caregiver can enter a question, can I best take off a mask, for example, and they'll get a little training module, a couple of quiz questions, and they'll get a check mark, and they'll have covered that module. So we're starting off with the most basic general issues, and then when it gets into more specific jurisdictional stuff, we can add on and edit it for different markets. So it's super simple and intuitive.
We're talking to Trevor Rajchgot about this fascinating story of him and his team winning a worldwide challenge at MIT for a really unique app called Care Owl, providing training solutions for COVID-19. So I love the fact that it's modular because, again, this was a worldwide team that you put together, and it's been designed so that you can adjust and adapt to local regulations like you were seeing. So I would assume best practices like you talked about, but let's say we're in, I don't know, Tennessee and it's state regulation, you should have the ability to be able to adapt to those laws in Tennessee, as an example.
Yeah, that's a good point. When we did our research for looking at the market for this app, we saw that it's not that there's an alternative educational system, it's that there's no training for a lot of these caregivers, like none whatsoever. And so we think instituting certain best practices to start with will make a huge impact in terms of spreading COVID-19 at these particular facilities.
So interesting. I wondered how easy or complicated was it to be on the same page as your teammates?
We happened to work very well together. I lucked out with how nice my teammates were. So their names are Anthony, Abby, Chip, and Sammy. And so other than the difference with Singapore, the time difference, I mean, it was pretty seamless. We were all on the same page, and our different skill sets really ended up adding together a great team.
And you're right. You all had different skill sets, and let's remind everyone, you have 48 hours to put this together. You're starting on a Friday night and finishing on a Sunday, and going through so many different possibilities and finally deciding on an option. Now, there is a pretty prestigious list of panelists that you have to present to. In fact, I believe it's a 3-minute pitch that you've got, and there's a few minutes for Q&A, and that's it. And then you've got the same for all team members. Well, we're going to hear with that pitch what it was like, how intense it was. But first, Trevor, we got to head out for a little bit of a traffic update. So let's head to hear from Mark Shaloub at the CJD Traffic Center.
Live Fun Rehearsed on CJAD 800. Brought to you by Marco Vendramini of IG Private Wealth Management. MarcoVendramini.com.
Welcome back to Life Unrehearsed. I'm Corey Sirota with my co-host Matt Del Vecchio, and we are talking to Trevor Rajchgot about his incredible story of winning this worldwide challenge at MIT for a unique app providing training solutions for COVID-19. Very, very impressed with all of this, and he did this in 48 hours, which is really on top of it. Oh my gosh! Okay, so in order to present it, you had to do a 3-minute pitch, and that had a 3-minute question and answer, I understand, in front of a very prestigious list of panelists. I would like to hear a little bit of that. How did you do that?
Sure. So it was, given how short it was actually my teammate Anthony who pitched, and I helped answer the Q&A. So it was just every single team within our category was presenting on a massive Zoom call. And so some of the people that were judging us included a senior partner at the Boston Consulting Group, an executive at the Veterans Affairs Administration from the U.S., and someone working in Health and Human Services at the White House, actually. So they assembled a really impressive group of people, and throughout the whole process of even building the app, we had access to mentors from various different prestigious fields. So I was very fortunate to have been a part of this process.
Just a couple of names that should be pretty impressive there, Corey, right? Your face is so funny. Yeah. The panelists are impressive, as you mentioned, Trevor. I mean, this just wasn't local. This is worldwide from MIT. Now, you get the call that you actually win, and congratulations, by the way. So when you win, what do you win?
Thank you so much. So there is a cash prize, but also we get the support and access to different accelerators to actually build out and carry out our project. So that's what we're in the process of doing right now, because we really do want to make an impact, and all of us really felt that we hit on something important that we want to see through.
I think it's amazing. It sounds like part of it, I believe, is the passion that, I mean, obviously it has to be a solid, appropriate and relevant idea, but the passion that you speak of, it has to also help move it along. So here you have it. You've gotten these, I was thinking bragging rights, but okay, there's a lot more there than bragging rights. Now what? How do you go to market?
Sure. So that's a big challenge, because we need to look at which of the app that we want to develop first. And so we're in the process of looking for academic or private partnerships to launch a pilot project with. And so once we gather some data on how this app does, and we think it has a very good chance of doing well, because a similar project that was done with cancer care ended up having very good results. So once we get that feedback, then part of the competition was also developing a go-to-market strategy. So we do have one, and we'll adapt it depending on the partnerships that we establish.
We're talking with Trevor Rajchgot, who's talking about his fascinating winning story in 48-hour hackathon to build a really unique COVID-19 training solution. Right now, it's branded as Care Owl. Trevor, I love that name. And
thank you.
Now, if you thought it was tough in those 48 hours, now it really gets tough, and hoping to find some partners. But what's exciting about this, again, this isn't Montreal centric. This is worldwide, and it could be applied worldwide. And you've got an app part of it. I think, could you just share a little bit of have a go-to market strategy? Can you share some of the highlights of what you plan on doing?
Sure. So we plan on building out the different modules. So our app has different components. So one of those would be the interactive training modules. Think Duolingo. Part of it would also be peer-to-peer support. Part of it would also be gamification, which in a short sense means making it fun for the actual users. And part of it would also be partnerships so that to encourage engagement. So that, for example, if, let's say, someone completes 3 training modules and has become an expert on protective equipment, they get a free Starbucks drink. So this encourages people to continue using the app that we will continually update. And so part of the challenge of going to market is deciding which of those to develop first and which would be most needed by workers at the facilities that we're targeting.
So I'm wondering about, as I'm listening to this, what, I know circumstances and life as it is today, what was the spark that motivated you to do this particular app?
Right. So this was really we stayed up very, very late on Friday when the competition had its kickoff to try and come up with a problem statement because it was very open-ended. So we not only had to come up with a solution, but also the problem. And so I knew I wanted to do something in the mobile space, but after having long, long conversations with my teammates, we really came down to this particular idea within primary caregivers in elder care facilities, and we tried to examine what the most specific needs would be and which would be the easiest to address with our products.
You know, it's interesting, and Trevor, as you're aware, I mean, this speaks dear to my heart. I'm very much involved in a lot of the CHSLDs and senior residences in Montreal and Toronto, and I could see this being a wonderful fit. We tend to think that this is totally government regulated, and yes, there are regulations, but what you're talking about is very basic, you know, simple stuff like how to take off your N95 mask or your gown. People don't realize that there's a process to that, and if all of a sudden you're building up this community of caregivers and PABs and so on, it makes a lot of sense. And again, just not here in Canada. It's something that could be applied worldwide. So, Trevor, we wish you the best of luck. You've probably just scratched the surface here. I believe you're in a PhD med school right now in pharmacology. Is that correct?
A PhD, that's right.
PhD. Well, we wish you the best of luck in your studies and the best of luck with Care Owl as well. If people want to find out a little bit more about this project, where can we look?
Sure. So we created careowl.org, which will continue to update as we solidify our product and go to market plan. So that's careowl.org. And stay tuned for further development. And
if potential partners that want to get a hold of you, they can go where? Can they call you? Do they go to the website? Is there a website? We lost them.
Hello?
Trevor,
hi.
Yeah, hi there. If there are partners, you know, because let's face it, you need some business partners. If there are partners that are interested, how do they get a hold of you, Trevor?
For sure. So, my phone number is 514. Oh, just kidding.
Mm-hmm.
You can contact me at Rajchgot, that's TRAJCHGOT @gmail.com.
All right. Well, we wish you the best of luck. Thanks for taking a little time here on Life Unrehearsed, and very exciting and future success for you as well.
Thank you so much, Trevor, for doing what you're doing and developing this and making something so important accessible to everyone. And now, coming up on Life Unrehearsed, all these people are moving in the next week or so. This has led to many, many people considering downsizing, but just the thought of it can be overwhelming and certainly overbearing. It can actually be fulfilling.